Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo rant. It's a bit of an impromptu episode this week, so probably there's not going to be an intro. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to edit this that much. It might go straight up raw from my phone because I'm having to film it on my phone. I'm here in Japan at the minute, which is why I'm sort of filming in this situation, not in my usual studio setup, you know. So apologies for the video quality. Filming this on my phone and the sound is coming from my AirPods as well, so sorry about that. I don't have the usual setup with the questions on this side. I'm gonna have to read them from my iPad instead, but we'll get to it. I know it's been a while since I put up an episode. I wanted to put one up sort of towards the end of last week, but I was really busy. I'm over here in Japan at the minute, as I said, doing quite a lot of training. My daughter has started school over here, so I had a lot of things to deal with that, so it's been really hectic. So sorry for the delay on getting the episode to you. We'll jump to the questions in just a moment, but before we do, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, help us grow the Kendo population by doing those things. Like, share, subscribe. You have to click the little bell icon, enable notifications, and leave a comment using the word Kendo. Okay, you do that, the YouTube ninjas, they know to go, ninja robots, they know to go and get people starting Kendo. We've already had 562 billion people start Kendo since we started this project. Pretty sure that's how it works. We did reach out to YouTube and Google, ask them if that's what it was. They didn't reply to us, so I'm guessing that means yes. You have to make sure you leave a comment using the word Kendo. This is the best Kendo video, best Kendo channel I've ever seen in my entire life. Something like that. And then the YouTube robots know to get people starting Kendo, and we don't get like 1 million people start tennis or snooker or something like that. Okay, we're here to get people starting Kendo. Okay, so do that. But more importantly than that is, if you like this video, I know it's a little bit impromptu, as I said, but if you like the videos that I put up, whether it's Kendo rant, whether it's the feedback videos, I've got more feedback videos coming soon. They'll probably be next week after I get back to the UK. The instructional videos, analysis videos, all of this stuff comes to you completely free of charge. Yeah, there's no memberships, there's no monthly charges, we don't charge you for subtitles, nothing like that. And here's the great news: to support it, all you have to do is shop at KendoStar.com. So it's a win-win situation, because KendoStar.com is the best Kendo equipment site in the history and future of the universe. Of course I would say that because I own the place, but it's true. Everyone agrees with me. KendoStar is by far and away the best, all right? You get the best equipment, you get the best service, all right? We are the best at what we do. We're an established brand. We've been going for a long time now, especially for the international community, okay? We're not middlemen between you and some other Japanese or otherwise supplier. We're not drop shipping to you or anything like that. We're not operating out of our sort of bedrooms or something. You know, we're an established company with a full team of staff ready to serve you, okay? That's KendoStar.com, all right? So get shopping there, all right? As the ancient Japanese proverb goes, everyone is a winner, baby. That's the truth. Right, let's get to these questions, shall we? We've got quite a few because it's been a while since I've had a show, but I've got them here on the iPad. I'm sorry I can't get them up on the screen for you today. I'll try and speak clearly so that you can tell what is being asked. So, first one. When I was a young lad with less disposable income, I just owned and used one Borga set with a second pair of kote for everything from practice, shiai, grading, etc. Now that I'm a bit older, more serious about my Kendo, and with more disposable income, I'd like to have a few sets that I can use for specific purposes. I was thinking 3 sets would cover all the bases. 1, practice set, sturdy Borga set with more cushion, wider stitches, 2 pairs of kote with smoke palms, I heard they last a little longer, and a black Yamato door. 2, a shiai or just Sengato set, lighter Orizashi Borga set with less cushioning, white kote palms, fibre door, maybe a little colour, tamenuri door dye, or red yabane, red tombo inden, etc. And 3, a grading or seminar set, deerskin reinforced Borga, finer tighter stitches, Roido black bamboo door with deerskin mune. From your experience, would having a 3 Borga set collection like the one above be reasonable, excessive, or perhaps lacking? I'm very new to Kendo, so I'm sure I'm missing a lot of context. I'm curious why beginners are taught large menstrual... Oh, sorry, this is a different question. Or perhaps lacking. Okay, so, sorry, I skipped to the next question there. So the question ends on the Borger sets. So so what your question is if you have those 3 separate Borger sets to sort of cover all bases, is that adequate, or is it too much, or is it not enough? So here's the things I'd say. First of all, for your practice set, sturdy Borger set, more cushion, wider stitches, yeah, that's cool. Something like a Vanguard is a great choice for that. 2 pairs of cordé with smoked palms. You heard they last longer. To be honest, I don't find that. I don't really use the smoked palms on KendoStar Design Borger because I'm not a massive fan of the smoky smell, and I prefer the softer feel of the white ones, which I feel last about equally as long. But we can do the smoked palms if that's what you want. But I don't think there's particular difference in the durability of them personally. And then you're looking like having a Jisengat or Shiai set that's a bit lighter, and then a grading set that's like a more sort of high level expensive set. I mean, you can do it that way. It's not excessive. I can't really say that because I've got lots of Borger sets myself, but I don't really categorize them in that way. I know it's simple to categorize it that way, sort of like a practice set, Shiai set, grading set sort of thing, but I don't really do it that way because I think the way modern Borger is, you can have a set that's like well made from decent materials, looks good for your gradings or whatever, but also like is lightweight enough for you to, you know, be unencumbered when you do a Shiai. So I don't tend to look at it like that personally. You know, you certainly could do that. Like if you was picking stuff out of our line, like you could pick like something like the Vanguard, or Vanguard Myrmidon, something from the Vanguard series like that, for your sort of practice set. Maybe like your Shiai set would be something like the Victory or the Kamon Umbra, which is currently available, something like that. And then for your like grading or high level seminar set, something like that, you could look at something from like a Hinomaru series, something like the Kiraboshi or Akatsuki, or in the Korden, especially if you're looking at a bamboo door. They're all sort of great sets. So that's the way you'd look at it from that point of view. But the thing is you know, let's say you took the Akatsuki set, which I know is like one of our highest priced sets, but you could equally use that in Shiai, no problem whatsoever, because it's not like a heavy, cumbersome Borger set. It's very lightweight, it's very easy to use, and likewise like the Victory or the Kamui Umbra, that's perfectly fine for grading too. Lots of people use it for that. So so that's what I'd say, you know, and it depends how much you practice. I'd say there's definitely a benefit to having maybe a practice set, and then maybe something that's a little bit more for best occasions, you know, for your Shiai or grain and stuff like that. I don't think that's like an unusual situation at all. So next one, I'm very new to Kendo, so I'm sure I'm missing a lot of context. I'm curious why beginners are taught large men strikes when these strikes are largely ineffective in Shiai. Why not start beginners with smaller strikes in the first place? So this is a question that lots of people have about it. Obviously, we learn to swing the Shinai in big arcs before we start to learn the small strikes. And there's a couple of reasons. First is that the bigger strikes are better for learning the basic mechanics of striking, all right? And when you become able to do the bigger strikes well, then being able to do the smaller strikes becomes much easier, and rather than the other way around. Another reason as well is that when you do like the small swings, it's kind of easy to like hide, I don't want to say mistakes, but bad habits. If you're using large swings, it's harder to do them correctly. All right, so it's good to practice them, especially when you're doing like uchikomi and the basics, suburi, stuff like that, to make sure that everything's correct. It's like all your sort of bad habits or mistakes, they come out in the wash when you start to make big movements, which are much easier to hide when you are like using smaller movements. So it's like they're not designed to be effective or real techniques necessarily, but they are tools for improving your overall technical ability. All right, that's really important to remember. So that's why. All right, and they are really useful for that. You know, when you're doing your uchikomi, doing your kirikaeshi, it's really important that you use the big strikes and the big swings so that you can learn the mechanics properly, so that it improves the quality of your small swings. All right, that's super important. Okay, next one. Hi Fish Sensei, I had a question, on shinai grip. Where exactly does a skagashira rest in the left hand? Should it be on the meaty part of the bottom of your palm, or more towards the center? I'm confused about how the pinky half covered works in this. Thank you. Okay, so what you're asking about is where in the palm of the hand, does the skagashira, which is this part of the shinai, where does it rest? Now, this is an interesting question. I'd say that the sort of most sort of general or basic teaching, at least the way I understand it, is it sort of sits in your palm of your hand, sort of here, okay, and then your sort of little finger wraps around the end of it, and your fingers close around it like that. Okay, I think that's the most generic, basic teaching. Okay, like this, yeah. I think at this in your beginning of your Kendo journey, that's the best way to practice. Okay, so don't have it sticking out like this. All right, now that isn't to say you won't see some people that hold it differently, because it is an element of Kendo that people I think find the sort of own comfortable way with later down the road, but it is quite a lot later down the road, so I wouldn't mess around with it too much, if again, depending on where you are in your Kendo journey, but for the time being, I'd sort of work off this idea here. Okay, this gives you the most sort of flexibility. If you have it like this, you can't actually move it quite as much. All right, so that's what I would say on that. Sorry if I sound a bit bunged up, by the way. I'm getting really bad hay fever at the moment. Anyway, I recently bought 2 bamboo door, one of which I did on behalf of a club member. This is the setup to say this is asking for a friend, which it really is. As a gift, I also bought a Kamon, you know, and it's a metallic decal Kamon, so the stick on Kamon for him, which he put on his door as supposed to. Soon after, another member of the club, who's of Japanese heritage, told him that he'd put it on the wrong side of the door, on the right side, stating that this is incorrect. He then removed it, but left some glue residuals on the shining door, which are quite visible. Sorry for the lengthy explanation. I thought it might also be something for Kendo. Yeah, that's where we are. So I wanted to give you some context, and here are the questions. What's the best method to remove the glue things from the lacquered door die? Rubbing is only distributing the residuals all over the door. Can you try with industrial alcohol, ethanol, or similar? I assume that anything stronger, acetone based, will destroy the lacquer and make everything worse. Also, but more out of curiosity, are there really rules to where the Kamon goes? Never on the right side, always on the upper part or on the corner between the door die and the mune, etc. I'd really appreciate guidance for this first question, so that I can pass it to my friend and help him get the door as fast and fantastic as it was before. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is somebody who has stuck the Kamon on the door, and instead of sticking it on the left side, which is the normal side here, they've stuck it on the right side, and then they've taken it off, and it's left a mark. It's a difficult one. I don't want to recommend using like rubbing alcohol or anything like that. I mean, you can try a bit, but be really careful, because it could indeed affect the surface lacquer of the door as well. So I'm not sure. I'd probably try soapy water first, before I tried any sort of alcohol. But yeah, and if you do try the alcohol, maybe try diluting it first, and be super gentle and super cautious with it. Regarding the rules about where the Kamon goes, I've never heard of such rules, to be honest. Yet it's true that in general the Kamon goes on the left side of the door die. In general, that's the sort of standard place, but I've never heard anyone say it must go there, or it has to be in that specific place, or it cannot go on the right side. I don't recall seeing it on the right side before. I have seen it in other places. I've seen people have them in the middle. and even right in the middle of the door die, not just sort of horizontally but vertically as well. So I don't think there's hard and fast rules on it. At least I've never heard of any. So I don't think it's a major thing, to be honest. So yeah. Okay, next one. Hello, Andy Sensei. I have a question for Kendo Rant, and I wanted to anonymize this one a bit. Okay. Since I passed my Nidan test last October, I stepped back from Kendo to work on some other things in my life. Okay, fair enough. I'm sorted there, and I think I'm ready to go back. But I'm coming to realise that the club I've been with until now doesn't feel right anymore. The people are fine, but there's no enthusiasm. For the last several seminars and my last 3 Shinsa, I was the only one who went, and I meshed in with another local club that I visit from time to time. I'm wondering how to handle this as I look to head back to practice. Thanks for your advice, Sensei. Okay, so from the sound of this, you're feeling a little bit more like you fit in better or prefer the atmosphere or culture of the other club that you visit rather than the current one. I think the thing to do with that is what I would do is if the club that you visit from time to time is in the sort of area that's local enough to you to make it your sort of more regular club, I don't think it's a necessarily problem for you to do that if you feel that that's a better fit for you. You just have to be careful about the way you go around it. So I think the way to do that is it's probably helpful if that other club practices on different days to the club that you're at the minute. In which case, I think the easiest is to just go to the other club and, you know, the original club and say that, you know, you're coming back to Kendo, but, you know, due to, you know, your circumstances mean that, you know, training on the other club's days or whatever, or training at the other club is a little bit more convenient for you. So you probably see yourself practicing more there, and we'll come and visit this one as and when you can. I think you just have to be a bit diplomatic about it and fair. But, you know, it shouldn't be like the kind of thing where it's sort of a cult where you're not allowed to leave one club to go to another. Do you know what I'm saying? I think if you just sort of be respectful and careful and diplomatic about the way that you handle it, then I think it should be okay. Just try not to. Don't just abandon the other club and start going to the other club, because that's going to put someone's nose out of joint as well. I think it's best just to have a chat and just be like, look, it suits me a bit better to go to that place for the time being, so I'm going to just move over there. But I still want to come back and practice here as much as I can, and will do as and when I can, if that's okay. And sort of push it forward in that direction. I think that's the sort of safest way to go about it. It's never an easy one, you know. Okay, next one. Greetings, Fisher Sensei. I have 2 questions. 1, what are the rules for what teammates can shout at someone who's fighting? I was watching an old team video and the team captain said something like, watch out for the line, and I heard someone tell him that he couldn't say that. On a personal note, I don't really like it when people shout at me when the clock is running, as I find it distracting. 2, what age do kids do keiko against each other? We have a number of children at our dojo and I've never seen them do keiko against each other, only adult senpai. During their Q tests, they did their wazo with adults. I know teenagers who do keiko against each other, but what's the actual cut-off age where that's allowed? Okay, so for your first one, you're not supposed to shout anything. You're supposed to just clap, okay? But people, of course, do. It's a bit of a grey area. Because, you know, it really depends on the situation. So, but people, you know, it's quite normal to cheer on, right? And you do, right? Especially when you're getting excited or really, you know, hoping that your players do as best as they can. But you shouldn't really, like, by the strictest reading of the sort of guidelines, you shouldn't really do that. You should you should just clap. Not that I'm saying that's what happens. Um, in terms of what age do kids do keiko against each other, it depends on where you're talking about. If you're talking about here in Japan, then I think when kids most kids start kendo when they're like 6 or 7 years old, probably start wearing boga when they're 7 or 8 years old. And I don't think it's that unusual for them to start doing keiko with each other when shortly around that time. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue for them here in that regard. They certainly don't only do with other adults, with adults, I mean. But of course that depends on what country you're in. Obviously different countries handle the practice of kendo for kids very differently. So there's different regulations, rules, laws, things like that, different sort of societal standards as well. So it's hard to say, but I mean, yeah, in my experience, it's not that unusual for like kids of 8 or 9 to do keiko with each other, to be honest. So yeah. Next one. Currently, I am Ikkyu going for Shodan in 1 month. Regarding Jigeiko, often senior sensei really don't give a lot of room to move. They're right there in your face. Recently, when this happened, I was stepping in trying to cause kuzushi, trying to see the okori, but literally nothing happens. They don't move. I often stand there for too long waiting to see what will happen. After a few seconds, I'll usually just cut men, but of course it's useless. I'm struck too quickly. I often get scolded for waiting too long. Yesterday, sensei said if I move in and there's no opportunity, I should step back. But to be honest, I thought I had to not step back when facing senior sensei. So I'm a little confused. I guess different teacher, different expectations. I'd love to learn a little more about facing senior sensei. Also, it's my 50th birthday soon, and I'll have my kakari geiko with sensei. Any advice on how to do kakari geiko in this situation? Is it to show full spirit and don't give up? I can try my best to do that, but my technical skills are not that great in kakari geiko. Any advice on how to do kakari geiko is also appreciated. Okay, so it's hard when you do that sort of jigeiko with the senior senseis. I get that, right? So you're Ikkyu at the minute going for Shodan. Now, of course, you start doing keiko with your senseis, you're not going to be able to sort of do kuzushi with your seme, like kuzushi in the sense of break their kamae. And I don't think you're going to see their okori either. Okori is like the moment when they start to attack. That's normal. Yeah. I think, so what you're finding yourself in the situation is just kind of, and then you're stepping in, and then you're like, oh, I'm trying to do I'm trying to break the kamae, and I'm trying to wait for them to move, and then they're not. So then they're telling you, now you're waiting too long. I think at the stage you're at, I think you're probably overanalyzing. Yeah. I think you're better off sort of nice big voice, then stepping to your cutting distance, try to find the chance, see if you can see the chance, and then hit, rather than worrying about like, can you break their kamae or can you see their okori? Do you know what I mean? And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Yeah, it's it doesn't matter if you definitely hit the ippon or not at this point. Just try to hit with full spirit. And if you feel like you've stepped in and there's definitely no chance for you to hit, then I don't think it's necessarily a major problem for you to step back. But I don't want to encourage you doing that too much. You don't want to step in and then step back, step in, step back, step in, because you're not going to find loads of chances against that sort of senior sensei. And there is the case, definitely different senseis have different ideas and different ways of giving the keiko to the junior person. So when I say junior, I don't mean age-wise, I mean, experience-wise. In terms of how you're going to do your kakari geiko, just attack with full spirit. I think that's right. Just attack with full spirit and don't give up. Don't worry too much about your technical skills. It's not... I think if they're going to have you do a kind of birthday kakari geiko, I think they want to see you perform it with best spirit rather than sort of super impressive technical ability. All right. The senseis know what you're technically capable of. All right. So I'm sure they they know what to expect in that regard, all right? So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just try to use a big voice, try to push as hard as you can within your own limitations, yeah? And just do your best, all right? I'm sure you'll be fine. Next one, hello Fishy Sensei, I have a question regarding the practice of kata. How much practice time is regularly dedicated to it in the UK and Japan in your experience? It super varies, right? It's really variable. Depends on the club. In the UK, some clubs do it quite a lot, some don't do it hardly at all. In my club, we tend to use one of our practice sessions per month dedicated to the practice of kata. So that's like a 2-hour session once a month. But we don't always do it, but we usually do. But I've made it quite clear to my students that I expect them to learn and practice the kata in their own time, and then we use that time in the dojo once a month for us to kind of review and correct it, rather than use that time to learn the kata. In Japan, in general, it's much less, but again, it depends on the situation. I know of some like adult practices where it's like people who are, adults and perhaps already have certain dan grades and are challenging higher dan grades. I know some of those sort of practices, they'll practice kata for 10 or 15 minutes before every practice. I know there's some that will just practice every now and then. And then I know others that just don't practice at all unless someone's doing a grading, and then they'll practice it a little bit before the grading. But it's, even in the ones that I've been to where they practice it every week, it's only for a short time, and it's not particularly in depth, if I'm honest. People just run through the motions of it and just kind of, brush off the cobwebs, shall we say. Rather than, there's no like, I've never seen one where like a sensei like gives a lecture on the kata and then everyone goes and does it or something like that, like everyone just pairs up and in their own time, and it's dead casual, and just runs through it. I think just to keep it fresh in their mind. Next one. Hello Sensei, over the past 3 years my senseis have opened my eyes to what works and does not work. My kendo is likely to be very different from how it used to be when I was awarded my sandan. From my kamae to my arm and leg motions, and of course my understanding of seme. If my kendo can change so much, there will come a point where I might have taught someone so many years ago turned out to be wrong. What I taught someone might turn out to be wrong due to my narrow vision. Someone's kendo journey could have become diverted because of my lack of understanding. How should I face this fear of teaching the wrong things whilst constantly evolving my kendo? I think that's a really good question. I think what you're saying is like over the past few years, especially since you got third dan, you feel that your kendo has changed a lot since that time. So the concern is that 3 years ago, the stuff that you taught to somebody doesn't necessarily align with what you understand now. And how can you sort of get over the idea of that? I think that's a really good question, and I wish more people would think about it, actually. I think the way I deal with that is, of course, let's take the last sort of 5 years, or even 5 years, from when I like first sort of got through my last dan grade and to where I am now. There's a lot of things about my kendo or the way I think about kendo that have changed a lot. Lots of senseis have taught me different things, or I've come to understand things in a different way, or think about things in a different way, or what have you. However, and there's things as well, especially as somebody that puts instruction out on YouTube, right? There's videos I look back on from maybe 6, 7, or even 10 years ago, and I think if I did that again now, I'd do it a bit differently. But I think at the same time, when I look at it, when I review it, it's like, well, yeah, I think about that a little bit differently now. But looking back at that stuff, I guess I'm in a unique position because a lot of that stuff for me has been recorded and, like I say, put up on the internet. but I have this sort of advantage that I can go back and look at it, right? And when I do, or if I do, you know, I might look at it and think, yeah, I do that slightly differently now to how I did then. But looking at that, it's not wrong. What I said then wasn't wrong, even if it's a bit different to how I do it now. And if somebody followed that way, it wouldn't sort of take them in, you know, so off course. They'd be doing something totally weird or random, right? So that's that. And second is, I don't often teach stuff that, like, in fact, I hardly ever teach stuff, even like on YouTube or in my dojo or wherever it is. I don't usually teach stuff that I've just thought of myself. Like, there's not a lot of stuff that I sort of transmit to people that I've just come up with by myself. I don't think of myself as a teacher in that regard. I think what I always try to do is try to pass on or relay what's been taught to me. So, although I might think about something one particular way now, you know, that's because I've had influence from different teachers since the last time that I maybe thought about that sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that what I was thinking about with teaching in those days, that also was stuff that was transmitted to me from different teachers. So I don't think that was wrong either, like I say. So I just try to stick to, when I'm teaching, I try to stick to, like, relaying information rather than sort of like making up my own stuff, if that makes sense. I can't think of examples of times where I've taught Kendo to anybody where it's stuff that I've just thought up by myself. Almost everything is something I've received from somebody, some teacher, or whatever. And I've thought, okay, that really aligns with my understanding of Kendo, or the direction that I want to take my Kendo in, or the way that I want my students to do Kendo, or whatever. Or, you know, maybe my students have this issue and I want to help them with that. And okay, so I found an existing teaching that fits that, and then I've relayed that, and that way I feel like I'm more sort of future-proofed in that regard as well. And I know that it's not me just making something up, you know. So I think that's the best way to go about it, personally. Okay, we're near the end. Two more. Sensei, my left arm and right arm extend in the men strike. How to prevent the upper body from rotating to the left? I think this issue got worse if leaping from a further distance also. I believe that I push left hip and left arm forward in front of me. Okay, so yes, the left arm and right arm extend when you make a men strike. That's correct. All right, but if your upper body rotates to the left like this, it's because your hips aren't square. All right, it's nothing to do with your arms. You might feel like it is, but it's not. All right, it's to do with your footwork. All right, and your lower body. So there's two main things that are causing it. One is that your left foot is probably turned slightly. All right, so as you push, your body opens this way. And then secondly is probably you're not launching from your lower body, but maybe hitting from your upper body. So what you really have to think about is when you launch yourself forward for Mikomi, you have to push your hips forward, all right? I know you said you believe that you've pushed your left hip and left arm forward in front of you, but that can't be happening if your body is turning, all right? It can't be, all right? So I want you to think more about using your lower body to strike rather than your hands, if that makes sense. Okay, last one. Okay, so for small holes in your favorite KS Sentinel kote, is there a way to patch it so they stop getting bigger? So you've attached a photo, and we can see there you've got a little hole in the thumb. And what's great is I happen to have my brilliant Sentinel kote here with me in Japan too. And as you'll be able to see, I have the very same little hole here. Okay, and as you can also see, I haven't patched it. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's really common for kote to develop little holes in the thumb here reasonably early, because there's a lot of this is a main contact point between your shinai and your hands. All right, so they wear a little hole here very quickly, and often on the right side as well. You can patch them up if you want, but in my experience, patching it up they tend to just wear off again. What you'll tend to find, and what I found, is it won't get much bigger than this. It won't get much bigger than this. It will remain about this size, and I tend to just leave it. It doesn't bother me, to be honest. So that's quite normal. I think all of my club day have got a little hole here actually. It develops quite quickly, but it doesn't tend to get much bigger. So yeah, you could patch it, get a little bit of leather and stitch it over, but I think you'll find it'll probably wear off quite quickly. So there we go, we're done. We're at the end of the show. Again, I'm very sorry for the informal setup. Thank you for joining me all the way to the end. It might be just over a week before I get another show out, but I'll do it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today. Shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.